Your home insurance policy will likely not cover flood damage. You have to have a separate flood insurance policy, something a lot of people have been looking into the last few years, guys.
And as far as cars go, make sure you document any damage and file your claim as soon as you can. You need to do everything to protect the vehicle from further problems until an adjuster is able to review damage to your vehicle. That means cover any broken windows and cover the car with a tarp. For any preliminary repairs, make sure you keep receipts.
And if your car flooded, do not attempt to start it. Again, take photos, file that claim, and then have it towed to a mechanic for a full inspection. And if you have an electric car that flooded, do not connect the car to a charging station. That could start a fire. We have seen issues like that before, so please be careful.
Absolutely. We're going to continue tracking Milton and the impact it's had on us here in Central Florida right after a quick break.
If you get sick with COVID-19, someone will feel all alone. Get an updated vaccine this season so you don't let down the ones who matter most. Last fall, more people were hospitalized from COVID than the flu. COVID is always changing. Protect yourself this season with an updated vaccine. Do it for you and them.
Can't get out during the day? With complimentary Ford Mobile service, we can go just about anywhere to take care of your vehicle.
Think of it like this. No more hurricane conditions, and the tropical storm conditions are mainly held to our East Coast communities, which, frankly, we knew that this would happen. We figured it would be a little bit later until the coastline was done. But we're almost there, and that means we're almost ready for some sunshine.
That sounds nice.
It's coming. It's coming.
I think we're all ready for that area.
Yeah, thankfully, and some fall-like weather too. We'll tease out in the 7-day forecast. But let's at least get you outside with a look at our tropical advisories. Again, all hurricane warnings have been canceled for Central Florida, but for Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard counties, those hurricane warnings have been replaced with tropical storm warnings just because of those tropical storm force winds along the I-95 corridor. And then west of I-95, those hurricane warnings have been replaced with wind advisories. That's going to go until 8 o'clock tonight because we'll see sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour with gusts as high as 25 miles per hour. These are not going to interfere with any sort of efforts to help bring back the power and bring back the lights, but do know that it's going to be breezy outside. And of course, the 11 o'clock advisory, that means that we have a new track for you. It's moving away, still a Category 1 hurricane. It'll lose its tropical characteristics later today and just become a post-tropical system, but still producing very breezy winds in the Atlantic. Back here at home, even though it's gone, Milton is gone, we're still having very, very rough surf. Here's a look outside in Marineland, where we can also see those breezy conditions. At times, we're gusting to around 30 to 35 miles per hour. And because of that, we have a high surf advisory in effect up and down our East Coast until tomorrow night. And that's because breaking waves could reach as high as 10 to 15 feet. Now, we do have some residual rainfall from Milton, and that's going to be again along I-95. A couple of showers for southern Flagler County, working from Daytona Beach down to New Smyrna Beach, Ponce Inlet, Oak Hill, Scottsmore, Mims. Heavier rainfall approaching Titusville and the Cape, and then a couple of more showers back towards our west. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
Let's go to Seminole County now to see what's happening in that area.
Okay, we're supposed to be going to a news conference that's underway in Seminole County, waiting here on our producer to see if we have that connection. Seminole County saw very strong impacts overnight. I know you guys were talking about David Daniel was out there. I was on an air mattress somewhere in this building, but you guys were on the air.
Well, Nancy,
and
just
he was really whipping around.
Yeah, he was on his way to Asterix first in Lake County, then kind of went down around to Seminole County and Lake Monroe there. Like, we know that it normally will flood and that kind of thing, but Dave's been covering storms since the late 80s.
Yeah.
And he was just saying that this for sure was one of the most powerful that he's covered. But so we've seen the flooding there. We know the winds are extremely intense. And basically officials in Seminole County and several other counties in our viewing area have just been telling people over and over to stay off the roads. And I know we may sound like a broken record reiterating that, but I know folks want to go check it out and make the assessments, but still you never know if you're going to run into those down power lines, the trees, that sort of thing. But we were hoping to get that in just a few minutes. So we'll have that for you here to see what they're saying in Seminole County.
Do that on their own. That you could help one of those individuals. If you do have to go out on the road, we ask that you please use a lot of caution. There's localized flooding on multiple roads across the county. Please be careful. If you see water on the roadway, please don't drive through it. Turn around, don't drown, is our message. We don't want you to get your vehicle stuck on a roadway, and we certainly don't want to have to do rescues related to that. Last night we had over 13 inches of rain in certain areas of the county. We went into major flood stage at the Little Wekiva River, G Creek, Howell Creek, and the Little Econ also had major flooding. Those tributaries will go to the St. Johns River. The St. Johns River is not forecasted currently to crest. It will continue to get higher and higher into moderate and potentially major flood stage over the next few days, and we'll be in the response mode for doing that for a while. There are over 900 individuals that are currently in emergency shelters here in Seminole County. That's up from last night. So as the night went on, we had trees in homes. We had water that went into homes. Those individuals evacuated and went to their nearest shelter, emergency shelter. So we actually had an increase overnight of people inside the emergency shelter. Now that we're out doing damage assessment, our roads and stormwater crews are out. They're trying to identify, clear the major arteries, the major roadways here in Seminole County, and then getting to the smaller roads, and then finally the neighborhood type roads to make sure that they are cleared out. If you have experienced damage in your home, we ask that you let us know about that damage. You can do that by going to prepareseminole.org. You can even do that on your cell phone. So if you have cell service, we have been quite lucky with most areas of the county not reporting major issues with cell service, a little bit slow, but not major outages related to the cell. So you can go to prepareseminole.org and you can do a damage assessment report right there from the website. These damage assessment numbers will help us help your neighbor. And we want to get all that information to FEMA so that FEMA can come in faster here to Seminole County to help each and every one of our residents. So providing that information goes a long way in helping yourself as well as helping your neighbors to recuperate from this disaster. And overnight, our crews went out, our fire crews and our law enforcement crews went out there, did quite a few rescues due to trees going into homes and floods going into homes as well. And just want to thank the partnership that we have with the first response entities, specifically the Seminole County Fire Department, which I used to be a member of before I moved to emergency management. And I'd like to ask the fire chief to come up and give us a couple pieces of information of what's going on. Chief, thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning. First, I'd like to thank everyone for staying informed, preparing, and sheltering responsibly. By staying off the roads unnecessarily, you kept yourself safe and you kept our first responders safe. So from 8 p.m. last night to 8 a.m. this morning, we received 368 911 calls. This is about 150% above what our normal capacity would be for our daily average. The only significant storm-related call that we did have a tree that went into a residence. It did end up trapping an occupant in their bed. Our crews were able to respond and remove the occupant. Was able to ambulate, walk out under their own power. We did transport to the hospital just to be under abundance of caution. Regarding electrical hazards, we received 50 calls related to power lines down, arcing, and other things doing with power lines. We did have to halt our response for our transport units throughout the evening from time to time for about 3.5 hours due to the extreme winds. Thankfully, those winds never got to the point where we had to cease all operations. So our heavy vehicles, our engines, our towers were still able to respond. On a positive note, we had no calls for carbon monoxide, the poisonous, colorless, odorless gas that generators produce. Thank you for listening to the generator safety. We also didn't have any high water rescues or calls for sinking vehicles. That's a very good sign that our citizens, again, have learned and are heeding our warnings. This does bring me to a critical reminder. Please stay off the roads unless absolutely necessary. We do have teams out conducting damage assessment, and there are fallen trees and some flooding. Do not drive through standing water. We do have a quick response team out finishing up assessing areas such as the Little Wekiva and G Creek near Winter Springs, clearing roadways, identifying any hazards. We also have a drone team who's teamed up with the damage assessment team to assess those flood-prone areas that are harder to get into. We remain ready to support any life-saving and/or public safety needs. Please stay indoors if possible and avoid floodwaters, trees, and down power lines. Floodwaters can pose serious risks that include down power lines, human and animal waste. There can be hazardous materials in those floodwaters, debris that can injure you, lumber, other physical hazards, wildlife such as rodents, snakes, fire ants. That's an injury that can definitely happen. If you must enter floodwaters, wear rubber boots, gloves, and goggles. So as we begin some of these post-storm activities, I'm sure that people are going to go out with chainsaws. We got to allow to down trees. I'm sure that you have them on your properties. Thing I will always say is if you've never used a chainsaw before, don't let this be the first time where you learn. It's not a learning activity. Get a professional. Get a neighbor that knows how to use it. Wear protective gear. You want to wear eye protection, hand protection, chaps that protect your legs, and never make any cuts that are above your waist. Continue to stay safe. Post-storm recovery is just as critical as pre-storm preparation. And thank you for your partnership and keeping you safe. Alan?
Any questions?
The governor and director of emergency management, Kevin Guthrie, for the state, talking specifically about Seminole County this morning and the concern about all of the water that is going to drain from the St. John's in the coming days. Can you just talk about how people should approach this as we get past this storm when they think it's over?
Yeah, I spoke. Kevin's a good friend. I spoke with Kevin last night pretty late. The governor and the state really have clear knowledge of what happens here on the St. Johns River. They understand that we are going to be in response mode for a while because the water is going to continue to rise while other areas of our community are recovering from what happened last night. there are folks that still haven't experienced what Hurricane Milton is going to give them, because the water is forecasted to continue to rise on the St. Johns River for at least 5, 6, maybe even 7 more days as the water makes its way through the different tributaries, Little Wekiva River, Little Econ, the Howell Creeks and G Creeks and all those others. So we know that it's going to swell. We are forecasted to be a major flood. Right now, we are not forecasted to be at the level we were with Hurricane Ian, so that's a blessing. And that's because the storm moved faster. Had the storm moved a little slower, we would have been. But it's still going to be major flood stage. So those that have been around for a little while knows there's the potential that State Road 46 could close at some point as the water continues to rise. We know about the homes that flood out there. They've already pre-positioned vehicles to help those folks. So doing some things there, but today we're actually, ironically, while people are taking their sandbags down, we're talking about opening up sandbag locations where people can get sandbags for the St. Johns River. So we're going to be doing preparatory in some areas of the community and response and recovery in the other sections of the community.
Do you think the sandbag locations will be open tomorrow?
We are, yes. We're pushing them today. So it is kind of difficult because we're clearing roads, we're trying to get traffic signals up and operational, and we're preparing for flooding. Ironically, we are dealing with flooding, but we're also preparing for more flooding. And so we actually will be opening up sandbag locations tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll get those locations to you after the conference. We're still trying to figure out exactly. Want to make sure they're all set. There's no damage there first. If there is no damage, we'll be setting them up. There will be one, though, out in the Geneva area for those folks, so it's very close by. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right, you've been listening to that news conference there underway in Seminole County. A lot of information there about what they experienced overnight. But I just think one of the most important takeaways is, in so many of our communities, we're kind of ready to move on. Let's go picking up around the yard. Yeah. They're talking about giving out sandbags to people who live along the St. Johns because their issues are just starting now.
Exactly. And that's always a concern. So that's one thing they're going to be doing either today or tomorrow to get those out. One thing, too, that he mentioned, Nancy, 368 911 phone calls that they took in. The good news, there was only one tree into a home, and apparently that person is okay, but they did rescue that person. They were trapped inside of their bed, and about 50 calls about power lines down. So just one of many news conferences that we'll be taking today with our first responders, our local EOCs, to see what's happening in our communities.
All right, we want to get you out to Lake County now, where first responders are starting to get their damage assessments there. We just spoke with emergency management about what they're seeing so far.
WESH News' Christina Watkins is here now, and Christina, flooding is causing some issues there in parts of the county.
It is. That includes the Turnpike in Claremont. All lanes heading south between mile markers 280 and 289 are closed. We're talking that long stretch between US 27 and US 19. We're also seeing major flooding in Mount Dora on State Road 46 and 441. So avoid those areas. Take a look here. The county's emergency management director told me reports are flowing into the EOC. They are getting calls like this about downed trees. This is in Eustis. There's debris on the road, downed power lines. About half of the county is in the dark right now. We do know public works crews are clearing debris as quickly and safely as they can so they can reopen roads like the one you're seeing on your screen now. They're also keeping a close eye on the St. Johns River at Astor, which we know is always prone to flooding. Leaders are watching those levels, which are expected to rise even post Milton.
Understand that we may not see the worst of the flooding until a little bit later on. We are still working with our partners at the National Weather Service to monitor the flood levels that we are expecting to see from the river. So just stay tuned for more information about what that flooding is expected to be.
Yeah, that's something they will watch very closely. We also just found out Lake County received about 20 calls for emergency services overnight. We're told first responders managed to get everyone to safety, but still a lot of unknowns. In Lake County, it's still early in the recovery process. Emergency leaders stress staying home until they finish cleaning up. Guys.
And Christina, you just mentioned the cleanup. That's something we're seeing happening right now, guys. It's going to be going that way for a little while now.
Yeah. And, thankfully things are nice and quiet now. No hurricane force winds. We still do have some gusty winds along the coast, and it'll be breezy throughout the day, but nothing that would impact getting the power back on.
Right. So that's first and foremost. The recovery has begun. But if you live along the East Coast, Kellyanne, that's the area we have to watch closely.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's at least start with a look at the latest advisories, because this is new from the 11 o'clock advisory. If you are just joining us, all of the hurricane warnings have been changed, either canceled, and that's going to be for most of the area, or changed to tropical storm warnings for Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard counties. If you are west of I-95, those counties west of I-95, no longer in any sort of tropical advisory, but they have been changed to wind advisories. This is going to go in effect now until 8 o'clock this evening for wind gusts as high as 25 to 40 miles per hour, but looking along the lines of sustained winds of 15 to 25 miles per hour. Milton, right now off of our coastline, it is still a hurricane, but later today it's going to lose its tropical characteristics. So then it'll just become a very strong remnant low post-tropical system. But right now, it still has winds of 80 miles per hour. That's why we see so many rough conditions across our coastline this morning and this afternoon. Otherwise, outside in Marion County, it's cloudy, but it's calm. It's a little bit breezy, but thankfully we are done with all of that. Here in Maitland in Orange County, our weather stem camera showing some clouds and some rainfall. Most of the rainfall is east of Orange County and along I-95. It's still streaming in from the Atlantic, and this will be the case throughout the day today. On and off showers, but they are going to be quick moving showers, and they're not going to be the ribbons of tropical rain that never end like we had earlier this morning. It's just going to be some quick passing showers. So from Flagler County down to Volusia County, and some heavier rainfall for Port St. John, Titusville, Scottsmore, down to Merritt Islands, as well as parts of southern Brevard County. They didn't really pick up a lot of rainfall, but areas along I-4, those whites you're seeing, those white shadings, that's almost 12 to 13 to 14 inches of rainfall, Eric. We had a lot of rain with this system.
We really did. And still some lingering impacts in real time. This is a look at the wind gusts, and we get this data updated within a 5-minute window. So every 5 minutes, this updates. Still gusting to 46 here in Marineland, 36 over in Port Orange, and 35 around the Melbourne area. So that's why we did see those advisories extended just a little bit longer. Everything else around town is in a lower register, so we're gradually getting back to normal. But if I may take a moment, let's just look at temperatures outside. This is the benefit of there's no benefit of an October hurricane. But when a hurricane moves through in October, it's able to bring just a little taste of autumn down. 71 degrees outside in Orlando now. It's 69 in the Villages and 68 degrees outside in Ocala. Backside always drives those winds from the north, and we're little by little pulling in this dry, clearing air. We saw on some cameras over in Tampa just a few moments ago, blue sky. The sun was coming out, and that is working our direction. So little by little, Futurecast showing the rain's exiting, and clearly a northerly breeze bringing in some of those lower humidities. These are the winds, gusty at times, but not too bad through 6 o'clock, especially along the coast. Can't rule out some showers coming in on that kind of return flow on the backside of the hurricane, but overwhelmingly it's a fine forecast. And then looking ahead, just this weekend's forecast, just beautiful. High around 80 tomorrow, morning low 71. We'll be in the upper 60s for the metro area for Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, staying beautiful. We deserve this. We had a hard hit last night. Let's get some nice weather in here. We'll be right back.
To stay ahead of the career curve, you need a degree with a destination. That's why university
Can't get out during the day? With complimentary Ford mobile service, we can go just about anywhere to take care of your vehicle. Can't get out during the day? With complimentary Ford mobile service, we can go just about anywhere to take care of your vehicle.
To homes and businesses as the storm rolled off our East Coast. West 2's Bob Hazen is in Brevard County now. Still feeling some effects out there as you have to wipe the camera lens of some raindrops there, Bob.
Yeah, things still flopping around too in the wind. And as you can see, like you said, the rain is still falling. Just when we think it's all gone, it keeps coming back with that wind as well. But as you mentioned, people are going out and about to look around. And this is one place where they've been coming a lot today, this morning, coming to look at this Supercuts building that kind of got blown up by the apparent tornado that came through early this morning or late last night on A1A. So this building was pretty much destroyed. The windows were blown out, the roof blown up. And then across the street from this, there's a Wells Fargo bank that also had its roof ripped off, pieces of it thrown all over the place. And then a little further back from this, just a couple of blocks, is a neighborhood where several homes took pretty severe damage, holes punched in them, a roof ripped off. So this is really kind of the locus of all of the damage, or at least the most major damage in Cocoa Beach, where this apparent tornado came through and just kind of cut a path a couple hundred yards right up here. And of course, we're going to wait to find out the actual confirmation about whether it's a tornado or not. The good news is we did hear from the mayor, who actually lives in that neighborhood, that no one was hurt or killed when that tornado came through. Back to you guys.
You. Now let's talk about some of the issues that we have seen from here on our coast in Brevard County all the way over to Hillsborough County.
Oh, look at that.
I know, giant sinkhole here. This opened up at the intersection of Irish Moss Avenue and Pond Pine Drive. If you're familiar with Hillsborough County, this residents say it's just a mess. And the folks and officials on the ground, they're urging people to stay away from this location because it's a huge sinkhole and it is expanding without warning. So we're seeing some of these images just continue to come in here as the day goes on.
All right, and then take a look at this video. A presumed tornado passing by the intersection of Rock Road and Orange Avenue in Fort Pierce. So the tornado can be seen ripping off part of a building as it soars directly over the camera. Look at that. And then everything just kind of disappears with all that debris and water swirling all around. And I think, once this is said and done, the activity that we saw with tornadoes throughout our state is really going to be a headline from this storm and the cause of most of the damage, for sure.
Nancy, I couldn't believe all the outbreaks yesterday. Just devastating to see that really close, that Martin County area. I used to cover news down there, Nancy, and I know you're from that area, further down Palm Beach County. It's really upsetting to see. This here is Punta Gorda. Take a look at this, just roads littered here with debris, street signs, tree limbs. You name it, folks there are seeing it in this roadway. Again, officials even there telling folks stay home until we have all of this under control. Stay with us. We're back right after this break.
You're watching continuing coverage of Milton from WESH 2.
Orange County Fire Rescue, along with Orange County SO, working here on water rescues. This all occurred about 4:40 in the morning. This is along Riverdale Road and Buck Road. Crews there, they were checking out every house in that area to assist any residents affected by the flooding. Just can't thank our first responders enough in these situations. Once the storm goes through, just so difficult to see the situation that some folks are in.
Yeah, they leave their families, they put themselves at risk, and they did incredible work overnight. And we're kind of now moving into this next phase of this where people are eager to get outside, start cleaning up. And from what we're hearing from you guys, they can today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Marion County, Sumter County, things are, I would say, beautiful outside compared to what we had overnight, right? It is a little bit cloudy, but overall, no rain and a couple of showers along our I-95 spots.
But those showers are much lighter. The winds are calming, and we're already now looking for lower humidity and changing things.
Yeah, I feel like it's always these October storms that roll on in that bring us some drier weather, although we can take without the October storms. Okay, so the 11 o'clock advisory is out. The changes with the 11 o'clock advisory, there are no longer hurricane warnings in effect for Central Florida. All of those have been dropped, but some of them have been replaced with tropical storm warnings. And that's going to be for Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard counties. I do imagine this would then get changed as we go towards the 2 o'clock time frame. The only reason why they issued these is just because we have so windy, gusty conditions along our coastline that at times can produce tropical storm force winds. Inland spots have a wind advisory in effect until 8 o'clock this evening for wind gusts as high as 45 miles per hour. But these are not going to be associated with Milton technically anymore. But when we get pressure gradients that are still very close together, that just picks up the wind, essentially. So again, that wind advisory for areas west of I-95. Milton working away, no longer going to be an issue for us. We do have some showers, though, in the forecast, and that's moving in from the Atlantic all the way from I-95 in Flagler County down to I-95 in Brevard County. Some pockets of heavier rainfall for Ormond Beach, Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach. These are quick passing showers, so it's not going to last all day long. A couple of more showers for Flagler Beach and Palm Coast as well. And then down in Brevard County, this batch of rainfall moving away from Titusville and Miz through Port St. John, all the way down to Rockledge, Cocoa, Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, and Melbourne. Now, the wider perspective on our rainfall totals show this big swath of rain, the purples and whites showing this big swath of rain along the I-4 corridor. Take a look at some of these rainfall totals that are just in from the National Weather Service out in Melbourne. Ormond Beach, almost picking up 23 inches of precipitation. That is from 11:17 this morning, valid from 11:17 this morning. Claremont picking up almost 13.5 inches of rainfall. Hollywood Studios picking up almost 13 inches of rain, and Oviedo 13 inches of precipitation. These are very high rainfall amounts. We knew that there was going to be a lot of rain and the potential for flooding. That was highlighted in our forecast throughout the week, but it's just really hard to see all of these numbers actually come to fruition. And the other thing is hard to see all these power outages, Eric.
It's a non-happy situation, right? But now we work forward, we clean up, and we're going to start to see these numbers little by little coming back down. Case in point, 10,000 already just in Polk County alone have gotten power back. And all of these numbers little by little will be getting better. We're getting our crews out there and they're doing their work. But at this moment, 150,000 without power in Orange County, 110,000 without in Brevard, nearly 200,000 without in Volusia, and about 100,000 without in Lake County. Want to talk about the peak gusts from this hurricane in our area. Ponce Inlet gusted to 99 miles an hour. Marineland in northern Flagler County, 92. Daytona Beach, 87. Orlando International Airport, 86. And the Sanford International Airport, 79, which means that this was the, second most powerful storm in half century and the most powerful hurricane wind-wise to come through our area since Charlie 20 years ago. For now, still cloudy, but things are changing. The rains are gradually tapering off. We'll keep a few showers in the forecast. Some temperatures right now are in the upper 60s in Central Florida. Now, we'll warm up as we get some more of that sun breaking through. We'll warm into the upper range of the 70s. We're going to keep it breezy to even gusty, but tonight will be lovely. Tomorrow, beautiful. And this weekend, fantastic. We'll talk about your full forecast. Make sure you're ready to go for any cleanup efforts or, of course, just trying to get your life back to normal. We'll see you in just a couple minutes.
All right, Eric. And now let's talk about the conditions still in Volusia County, South Daytona, Pamela Combe. We saw so much action happening there with the flooding, Nancy.
Yeah, and we've seen water rescues that had to occur there. Pamela, we believe, is with us here. Yep, there she is. And Pamela, there, I can just see it on your lens. You guys, again, still feeling the impacts of the storm with some rain out there.
We are getting some rain. Still pretty windy out here, but really that major thing we're keeping an eye on is the flooding. We've been in this neighborhood, South Daytona, all day. We've been driving around. There are several neighborhoods just underwater like this, roads that are impassable. They continue to rescue people out of their homes. We just saw another high water vehicle come out of here with people inside, children inside. South Daytona PD tells us this is worse than when Hurricane Ian hit 2 years ago. They started getting calls here at around 4 a.m. this morning, but they couldn't respond until around 7:30. And this whole time, they've just been trying to pull people out of their homes. We did speak with one woman who said she came to this neighborhood to stay with her sister because she lives in a mobile home and was afraid of the winds. She didn't know she'd be coming, and the issue she'd now have to worry about is all the flooding.
No sleep. It was very windy, very loud. And we thought we were doing okay. And then all of a sudden this morning, it started coming in. And we were up since 2 trying to put cat litter and makeshift. Every towel was used. This queen, we tried everything to prevent it.
And the South Daytona PD does ask people to just stay out of the road so they can continue those rescue and cleanup efforts. They do say, there's power outages all across the city, all across the county, and they say a lot of people aren't respecting the stoplights, the stop signs. So just stay off the roads and let the emergency officials do their work. Reporting in Volusia County, Pamela Combe, West 2 News.
Pamela, this is so tough for the folks there. Obviously, you're talking to that woman. What's their plan here moving forward? Just kind of wait it out and get the cleanup going?
First, try and see if this, wait for this water to recede. And a lot of them, they're being taken to a shelter right now temporarily. Some of them, that we've been talking to, they do say they have flood insurance. Others are kind of like, well, we just finished rebuilding. I don't know what comes next. Maybe now they consider moving because it's already happened more than once. So I think a lot of them are just really trying to get out of here, get to a shelter, to dry land, and I see where they go from there.
Yeah,
step one.
We talk about how every storm, it could be a lesson, right? And so we hope people are watching this and maybe for the next one, God forbid it's not anytime soon, but
right.
You remember and maybe you take those steps and evacuate early so you're not dealing with this kind of stuff now. All right. Every storm has these iconic images, right? One thing that I think we'll all always remember from this storm is the roof at Tropicana Field and those images overnight of just debris flying out of it and the canopy there just flying in the air.
Yeah, Nance, I've been to the Trop a few times,
Yeah.
and honestly, it's hard to watch a baseball game inside there. Have you ever been in? It's difficult. The lighting's tough, and I think a lot of it is because of that dome, but did not expect to see that this morning. West 2's Megan Mackey joins us live now near the Trop. Megan, as Nancy said, this is going to be something I think a lot of people are going to remember after Hurricane Milton.
Yeah, you both hit the nail on the head. This is really the images we've been seeing pouring in ever since 10 o'clock last night when we really got those first reports that Tropicana Field might have had some damage. I want to give you a look at this video. I believe we have some drone video to show you. As I mentioned, around 10 o'clock last night is when those reports started coming in that the roof was ripped to shreds. And you could see last night that there was those lights on inside, but you could just see all that, the roof just kind of blowing in the wind. Fortunately, we know there were no injuries. This was being used as a staging area for thousands of linemen, but we do know they were relocated before that roof damage. I actually just spoke to a gentleman. He lives in an apartment complex right across the street from Tropicana Field, and he said he heard the whole thing.
10:30, we heard like a loud, I don't know, screeching. It sounded like just like metal being thrown like towards our building kind of. So that's where we were like, okay, let's go see what's going on there. And our apartment faces right towards the Tropicana. So we just opened up our windows and looked out and just saw like the Tropicana roof was just floating in the air.
Floating in the air, ripping apart.
Now, the dome was supposed to be able to withstand wind speeds of 115 miles per hour. About 6 miles from here at the St. Petersburg airport, those wind speeds around that time were recorded around 100 miles per hour. So, of course, we're still investigating the damage. We're not allowed to get a look inside. So it'll be interesting to see if anything happened on the inside. But fortunately, no injuries were reported both at the field and around the Tampa Bay area. Reporting live in St. Petersburg, Megan Mackey, West 2 News.
All right, Megan, great reporting out there. And just what a huge relief, right, that there were no injuries. Incredible. All right. You want another iconic image that is so Florida? There it is. Look at that. A North Fort Myers resident captured video of an alligator lunging out of the water. Oh, you can see the teeth there. The resident opened the door of their car, and the gator can be seen there biting the car's tire and the door as it emerges from the floodwaters.
Oh, this is why they say don't go out in the waters, right? Well, this video is the important reminder to avoid walking through high water following a major storm, especially at night when you can't really see what's in the water. That's for sure.
That is so Florida right there.
Well,
So
stay with us. We're back right after this break.
Why are you throwing that in the trash?
Excuse me?
Keeping food waste out of the landfill is better for Mother Earth.
I didn't think you could grind this stuff.
Vegetable peels, melon rinds, I'm all over it.
You like fruit pits?
Bring them on.
Nothing grinds more types of food waste than the next generation of InSinkErator garbage disposals.
So keeping food waste out of the landfill is better for the planet.
You better keep grinding or I'm gonna be all up in your plate.
InSinkErator, kitchen better.
Don't throw that in the trash.
Is someone there?
Down here, baby. You got a fear of grinding?
Well, no, but I was just...
Keeping
You're watching continuing coverage of Milton from West 2.
All right, welcome back to our continuing coverage as we continue to get more and more video pouring into the newsroom from across our state.
Yeah, Charlotte County is where we want to go to next. Joshua Cole from our sister station reports on the storm surge there.
We're here in Inglewood this morning on the Charlotte County side, just up the road, Sarasota County, much closer to the eye wall where it made landfall. Down Beach Road here is the bridge to Minnesota Key. That is blocked off right now while authorities are assessing the damage. So we know that there is at least a small fuel spill out there that they're checking on, and lots of down power lines, and of course the debris.
Oh, it looks as though we just lost that package there. The story that he was telling us about, showing us some of the debris and some of the storm surge that they actually said was not as bad as they thought that it was going to be, which is really good news because they're still dealing with all the debris left over from Hurricane Helene.
And yeah, and in some areas we're hearing that it was actually worse from Helene, the storm surge.
Yeah.
So not what we were expecting, but certainly another relief there. And the mayor of Tampa spoke this morning after assessing damages around there. She said her city fared pretty well from Milton.
We would like to think that everyone heeded the officials' warning, but I really think it's due to Hurricane Helene, what that did. And that's the first for all of us who grew up here in the city. That's the worst that I've seen. And when people get to see firsthand the power of Mother Nature, it's very impactful, literally and figuratively. And so I think that people heeded that warning and got out and were able to stay safe. So very thankful to our community.
About 15 people, including multiple children. Look at this video after a tree fell onto a single-story home. So everyone is okay there. Again, once again, thanks to those first responders who were out all night. We have seen posts, obviously, from the Gulf Coast. Look at these images there. But, Orlando PD is posting, Orange County Sheriff's Office, every local agency sharing pictures of the work their first responders did overnight. And we cannot thank them enough.
And how scary for those kiddos and those families.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I can't even imagine. Now just want to talk about the storm. It's off with our coast at this point, but still we're going to be dealing with the effects here for the next several weeks.
A little bit cloudy for today, some showers along our coast, and really then it's going to be focused along our coastline for rough surf, high risk of rip currents, and then eventually we could be looking at some beach erosion. I know we've seen some pictures come out of Ormond Beach and places along A1A where it's there's sand on the road on A1A.
Yeah.
So there's things like that we still have to be aware of. But for the most part, the forecast is looking good.
Yeah, we're getting better and getting better. But we had expected a 3 to 5 foot storm surge, so that makes sense. Now the water's done, the winds are calming, and we get to look forward to a beautiful forecast, though we'll have to spend some time putting the pieces back together.
Yeah. Not so beautiful from this viewpoint of our weather stem camera out at Marineland. It just shows you the rough surf. This is what we are going to be dealing with throughout the day today. So Milton off of our coastline, no longer giving us direct impacts, but it is really stirring up our surf. I mean, you can see the camera bouncing up and down. We have had tropical storm force wind gusts at times. That's why there's still a tropical storm warning in effect for the I-95 corridor. And it's also the reason why we have so much high surf at the moment. We have a high surf advisory now all the way through Friday night, where breaking waves could reach as high as 10 to 15 feet. Now, seas around Milton are around 24 feet. And then as you get closer to the coastline, obviously they're not as high, but they're still pretty high, especially in Flagler County, where we have 12-foot waves, 7-foot waves for parts of Volusia County, 6-foot waves for parts of Brevard County. So we'll have high surf today and then tomorrow as well. But look at where we go Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Seas on Saturday, 6 to 10 feet, Sunday, 4 to 6 feet, and then on Monday, 2 to 3 feet. Now this morning we are tracking a couple of showers, not quite significant rainfall for any of our coastline. We had a lot of rainfall for Volusia County, especially around Ormond Beach, with that official report coming in at almost 23 inches of rain. This is not going to amount to much, but it is just going to be some pesky showers to kind of be an annoyance for those cleanup efforts along our coastline. Some showers for Flagler Beach, Ormond Beach, Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, Ponce Inlet, Edgewater, Oak Hill, beginning to work towards northern Brevard County around Scottsmore, Mims, Titusville. A few more showers around Bithlo, Wedgefield, Christmas, and eastern Orange County, and a couple of more showers around Melbourne, Rockledge, Cocoa Beach, and Merritt Island. So for the next couple of hours, it's just going to be somewhat breezy, and then we'll have a few isolated showers along our coast. Those coastal showers continue throughout the day today, but things gradually subside, and our temperatures, just because of that cloud cover, in the 70s. But Eric, our forecast for the rest of the week is looking good.
It is. We just have a little bit more wind to work through, but things are very clearly calmer than they were earlier. Still gusting up to about 47 here in Marineland, into the 30-mile-per-hour range, though, through Volusia and Brevard counties. And inland, it's breezy, but it is not anything dangerous. That's the good news. That northerly wind component grabbing some autumn air, it's not 100% autumn. You're not going to need a jacket or anything, but when a hurricane moves through in this trajectory during the month of October, we usually do get a little taste of it, and we are already starting. Lower 70s outside right now in the city. We're in the upper 60s north of town, and as Hurricane Milton continues to pull away, yeah, we've got a few of these lingering showers that'll sneak on through, but overwhelmingly, atmospherically, we're drying things out, and that will continue to improve things. So mostly cloudy skies, but we'll see some sunny breaks from time to time, and later on, we'll be able to clear things out, staying pretty windy for normal standards, not a hurricane by any stretch. 25, 30 miles per hour. But at this point in time, we still have those tropical storm warnings up for our eastern communities for clear reasons, because it's still tropical storm conditions. Look at this weekend, though. For our Saturday, beautiful sunshine, high of 83. For our Sunday, beautiful sunshine, high temperatures in the 80s as well. And it's not just the weekend. Look at the mornings, by the way. They're great, too. But it's into next week. Highs in the 80s. And Wednesday, we'll have to continue monitoring the trends, but if we think is going to happen, happens, that's going to be a lovely day. Highs in the upper 70s and lower 80s. It's possible. Don't hold your breath. But in this moment, for goodness sake, saw some model data. We're going to run with it. We'll see how it plays.
Oh my gosh.
Eric, we need that, right?
It
We
is
have
just-
to have the uplifting note.
I keep
Nancy.
sighing. Every time they talk about nice weather, I just start sighing. It's unbelievable.
Just no more storms, please.
No.
That's our hope, right?
That's it.
A prayer.
We're done.
Stay with us. We're back right after this break.
Centex customers buying select quick move-in homes have access to affordable financing with lower interest rates through its affiliate Pulte Mortgage. So you don't have to wait for the market to change to move into your dream home. Visit Centex.com or your nearest community for your local offer.
Don't throw that in the trash.
Is someone there?
Down here, baby. You got a fear of grinding?
Well, no, but I was just...
Keeping food waste out of the trash and out of the landfill is better for the planet.
Really?
It also keeps your kitchen cleaner and fresher. That trash is getting kind of ripe. Just saying.
Nothing grinds more types of food waste than the next generation of InSinkErator garbage disposals.
Vegetable peels, fruit pits. Look at you.
I couldn't have done it without you.
You got that right.
InSinkErator. Kitchen better.
At Volkswagen, we take safety seriously. Seriously.
Whoa, don't scrape that in the trash. That's not cool.
What difference?
At Volkswagen, we take safety seriously.
Chevy trucks with power you can count on. Capability that doesn't compromise. A hard-working EV with more range than any competitor and the potential to take you anywhere. Chevrolet, together let's drive.
It's looking like the storm of the century.
President Biden with a grave warning as Florida braces for a major hit.
But I urge everyone in Hurricane Milton's path to follow all safety instructions as we head to the next 24 hours. It's literally a matter of life and death.
Biden says he's a
New surveillance video is showing us the very moment an explosion tore through an Ocala strip mall.
West 2's Spencer Tracy is working to find out what might have sparked it.
that go off script.
This surveillance video shows the
People who are
terrifying
negatively
moments when an
impacted by light.
explosion happened in an Ocala strip mall on Tuesday night.
Came in too hot. Should we call a tow truck? A tow truck? Yeah. Hold my oikos. What are you gonna do? You crazy.
Protein packs to help build strong muscles.
New surveillance video is showing us the very moment an explosion tore through an Ocala strip mall.
West 2's Spencer Tracy is working to find out what might have sparked it.
This surveillance video shows the terrifying moments when an explosion happened in an Ocala strip mall on Tuesday night. It injured 4 people, 2 of whom ended up in the hospital. People were going in and out of the classic laundromat just seconds before the blast. Not only could you see the blast, but you could hear it.
Boom! Right back behind the store. I've seen everything fly out.
A lot of these businesses were open when the building blew up. Ocala Fire Rescue did treat 4 people, and 2 of them went to the hospital.
Shattered glass, sheets of metal, and a roof shredded to pieces is what remains of this classic laundromat. The Ocala Fire Rescue says this is after a suspected gas explosion.
Because just looking at it, you would think that they would be dead, right? But they're not.
Tootie Langhorn is a family friend to 3 of the victims. She said her friend smelled gas while doing her laundry.
She put the money in the machine and hit the start button, and that's when everything exploded.
Ocala Fire Rescue says it looks like the explosion started in the laundromat. Chopper 2 shows the inside of the building with significant damage.
Devastated. I really am. This was my life, basically. I spent more time here than I did at home.
Latora Waters works at the laundromat. She says the business used gas for its dryers, but all of them were in good working order earlier that day and were only about a year old.
Everything was just fine. My son and my daughter had even went in there. They smelled nothing.
The Florida Fire Marshal is conducting an investigation looking into the building's permits and what could have caused this. People say it's a miracle that no one was killed. In Ocala, Spencer Tracy, West 2 News.
Ocala Fire
Jamie, my apartment was robbed last night. If only Progressive had renter's insurance like their home insurance.
That way we could bundle our cars and get the same 24/7 protection.
Totally.
Totally is the best word ever.
Totally.
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 We all have someone from our past we'd like to forget. That's Mark Robinson.
Get mad at me if you want to. Some folks need killing. You can't have an abortion in North Carolina for any reason.
Women are not supposed to be leading the charge. It's supposed to be men leading the charge.
Mark Robinson's extremism is from a different era. Here in Charlotte, we're focused on the future for our families. Mark Robinson will take us back. Vote no on Robinson by November 5th.
Unlike other bags, only a Ziploc freezer bag features our exclusive 9 points of protection that helps protect your mom's pozole from leaks and blowouts. SC Johnson.
A man in Osceola County is accused of throwing his 10-year-old daughter out of a car and leaving her on a busy roadway overnight. As West 2's Megan Mulatto tells us, random strangers stayed with her to make sure she was okay.
30-year-old Hector Serrano has been arrested after witnesses say he threw his 10-year-old daughter out of the car and left her on the side of US 192 in Kissimmee at around 12:30 in the morning Monday.
Something bad could have happened to the little girl. Anybody could have kidnapped her. She could become a victim of human trafficking.
Osceola County Sheriff Marco Lopez says it all happened in the area of Scott Boulevard. He says Serrano was allegedly arguing with the girl's grandparents.
In that trash can out there.
We have team coverage of the aftermath of Milton. Our crews spread throughout the region.
And we welcome you here for the 12 o'clock hour of our coverage. I'm Sheldon Dutez.
And I'm Nancy Alvarez, along with our weather team, Kelly and class, Eric Burris. We have so much to get to, so much video to show you really from across our state that we're just getting in as people start to, clean up and really assess the damage. But we want to start with you guys and get a check of where this storm is now and really what we can expect today as people head outside to clean up.
Yeah, so right now the storm is off of our coast. It's no longer a direct impact to us, but it is leaving behind some gusty winds, especially along our coast.
Yeah, the good news is, though, those gusts are each hour kind of calming. And I would suspect over the course of the next 2-3 hours, all advisories will be canceled and we'll be able to get on with normal life, at least weather-wise.
And in fact, most of the advisories have been dropped for Central Florida. No more hurricane warnings for the area. However, for Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard counties, those hurricane warnings were then transitioned into tropical storm warnings, just because we still have those gusty winds lingering. But overall, we're not going to be concerned about any more heavy rainfall or anything like that. Now, for our inland spots, we do have a wind advisory in effect until 8 o'clock. That's because we'll see sustained winds of around 20 to 30 miles per hour. At times, we could see wind gusts around 45 miles per hour, but lately they've been more along the range of 40 miles per hour. So still breezy, but no need to worry. Milton is not a concern for us anymore. Milton is working away from Central Florida, away from the state and the peninsula. Now, outside right now in Ponce Inlet, this view is much different than what we had about 2, 3, 4 hours ago. The camera's not as shaky. The clouds are still there, but the trees are not as violently shaking. So thankfully, things are calming down. Here in Marion County, we still have cloud cover, not really seeing a whole lot of gusty conditions either, which is great news. Now, we do have some showers along I-95 at the moment. I-75 locations are dry, but showers for I-95 spots from Marineland down to Palm Coast, moving into Flagler Beach, Ormond Beach, Daytona Beach. These are quick passing showers, so they're not going to linger forever, but they will be on and off throughout the day, moving towards I-4, towards DeLand, DeLeon Springs, Edgewater, New Smyrna Beach, even parts of Chuliota and Bithlo, a couple of showers there. Heads up Titusville, Port St. John, some showers are headed in your direction. Now, that wider perspective shows this sliver of rainfall across I-4, those purples, white shading, that's where we had the heaviest rainfall. And in fact, officially in Ormond Beach, some parts picked up almost 23 inches of precipitation. In Claremont, 13 inches of rainfall. Hollywood Studios, almost 13 inches of rainfall. And Oviedo, 13 inches of rainfall. So along that I-4 corridor and even some of our coastal locations, we had a lot of rain. Thankfully, Eric, most of that heavy stuff is now gone.
Absolutely. There's some light showers and at times it could get a quick gust, but things are looking better and better. And I'm happy to say that we're starting to see these numbers dropping. Things are getting better and better. The linemen and line women are out there on the bucket trucks now that the winds are calming and they're returning power. But still, there's a lot of us in the dark. 200,000 residents in Volusia County alone, 150,000 without power in Orange County, nearly 200,000 in Polk County, and Marion County, Brevard County, and Lake County still also quite impacted. So a significant hit last night because we had a significant hurricane. Now, what I wanted to do is look at modern era and get an idea of where Milton's winds rank. These are peak winds in Central Florida. Back in 2004, Hurricane Charlie threw out a 105 mile per hour wind at Orlando International Airport. That still holds as the strongest hurricane in decades and decades. But Milton now comes in second with a 99-mile-per-hour wind gust at Ponce Inlet, followed by Irma in 2017 and Ian 2022 with wind gusts in the 70s. And to add a little more context, we had wind gusts in the 70s for several hours last night, whereas during Irma and Ian, we just hit a peak gust in that range. It was a long duration event making landfall 8 o'clock in Sarasota County, working just south of the Orlando metro and moving off the shoreline 5:30 this morning. So the track was south of us. And the most interesting part is that for a lot of us, that backside was the strongest part of this hurricane. Now that it's offshore and our winds are subsiding, we get to see those skies clear, and little by little, the weather turn better. Highs today gradually working. We're in the upper 60s and lower 70s across central Florida. The breeze will persist. We'll work into the upper range of the 70s, but wait until you see this weekend forecast and look ahead to tomorrow for our Friday. We've got you covered with Central Florida's certified most accurate forecast. We'll see you both in just a couple minutes.
All right, Eric, thank you. This storm made landfall last night in the Siesta Key region around 8:30, leaving all kinds of damage up and down the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, and we are getting new video and really new stories coming in hour by hour here. Joshua Cole from our sister station joins us from Charlotte County, where there was major storm surge.
We're here in Inglewood this morning on the Charlotte County side, just up the road, Sarasota County, much closer to the eye wall where it made landfall. Down Beach Road here is the bridge to Minnesota Key. That is blocked off right now while authorities are assessing the damage. So we know that there's at least a small fuel spill out there that they're checking on, and lots of down power lines, and of course the debris from Hurricane Helene. These buildings right here, you can see washed out from the storm surge. Just down the way, about 4 buildings down, about a football field's length away, is another building that's roof is damaged. I want to show you some of the material from that. First, look at the debris that we're seeing. A lot of concern here for what we saw washed up. As we turn, you can see another plank that came from that roof. And in addition, here in the parking lot of this McDonald's that so many people know before they head to the beach, a down palm tree. Lots of people trying to turn around and get onto the island, though that bridge is closed off. Now, I want to show you a pretty good representation of what the storm surge looked like. Look at this wall here with me, and you can see a very clear line of how high the storm surge got, at least at some point in the night. I'm 6 foot tall, and where I'm standing, you can see it was definitely over me. And this isn't even at water level. That's another 6 feet down this incline back here. So a lot of damage from storm surge that we saw overnight from Hurricane Milton. We'll continue monitoring these conditions here in Charlotte County. We're in Inglewood. I'm Joshua Cole. Back to you.
We saw in that video a lot of down lines. Just be very careful. We cannot stress that enough. Taylor Swift donated $5 million to hurricane relief for Milton and Helene recovery.
Yeah, this is really a bright spot, right, in all of our coverage. Feeding America posted the donation on X saying, quote, "We're incredibly grateful to Taylor Swift for her generous $5 million donation to Hurricanes Helene and Milton relief efforts. This contribution will help communities rebuild and recover, providing essential food, clean water, and supplies." She's actually coming here in a week or so, I think. I don't even know what date it is anymore, but she's coming very soon to be in concert down in Miami. And so, yeah, just wonderful to see that generosity.
Yes, indeed. All right, we've been talking about the power outages throughout the morning. I'm checking the map in my neighborhood to see when it's going to come back on. But the traffic lights might not be working because of the high winds that this storm brought.
Yeah, so let's bring in Christina Watkins. Christina, I grabbed Sheldon because we live near each other and I got power and he doesn't, and I have guilt and it's just terrible. So we're just trying to work through it here. So you take it away and talk about these rules for drivers and how we should be treating those intersections. This is really important.
You know, Sheldon, I'm right there with you. And so are many others, but we'll be patient. We know the line workers are doing the best they can, and we thank them for their hard work. Now, first and foremost, emergency responders really don't want you out of the house right now, but we know some of you will venture out anyway. So if you are doing that, please follow any directions you may see from officers or deputies when you come to those intersections where the lights don't work. If all of them are out and there's no one there directing traffic, Remember to treat it as a four-way stop. Look around you, be generous to other drivers. If it's a flashing red light, treat it as a stop sign. If it's a flashing yellow, use caution and then move on slowly. Now, the first car to get at the intersection should go through first. That is how that works. If two or more cars get there at the same time, you'll want to yield to the car that's on the other side, on your right side. Drivers should also use turn signals so other drivers know which direction you are going. Please remember that and share with somebody else. Far too many times we see frustration on the roads, and that's really not what we need. Kindness always, right? And lastly, drivers always look for and give priority to any people who may be walking in the neighborhood and crossing the street. Back to you.
These are good reminders for everybody, even if it's not a storm.
Yep,
just things to keep in mind.
We should do that like once a week.
Yes, in general, for sure. All right, we've been checking with Bob Hazen throughout the morning. We know Brevard County saw some possible tornado activity. That still has to get confirmed, but the damage is kind of widespread along a stretch there.
All right, yeah, let's get out to Bob with the very latest out in Brevard County. And Bob, you've covered, many storms before. I'm sure you can appreciate what I've been saying, I think, forever. This was a West Coast event, and look at you in Brevard County with all that damage behind you.
Yeah, when you're hearing about it, you're almost like, why am I even in Brevard County when this is hitting in the Tampa area? But yeah, we did, of course, see a lot of the impacts and a lot of that strong winds, heavy rains, and then tornado is the big danger and the big damage causer, damage maker that we had here in Cocoa Beach. This building, one of them, the Supercuts building here on A1A, got really badly damaged. The windows blown out, the inside's blown out. People have been coming here all day long, taking pictures of this building, along with a Wells Fargo bank building that's right next door that also had its roof ripped off. And right behind this, there's a neighborhood where several houses had their roofs ripped off and holes punched in the side. And I talked to one man who was there in his house when that storm was coming, and he looked out the window and saw that he knew something bad was happening.
I was actually in the bathtub upstairs, and I was looking over the water, and the next thing you know, I started seeing metal hitting my house and flying over the top of it. And I'm going, what the heck is going on? And the palm trees were like sideways.
Now, it has not been confirmed yet, but everything looks like this was a tornado that came through here and caused this damage in these isolated areas. The mayor of Cocoa Beach told me, though, that he does not believe that there's any reports of anyone being seriously hurt or killed in that storm. Reporting live in Cocoa Beach, Bob Hazen, West 2 News.
It's quite a sight to see, Bob, and we know not too far away from where you're standing right now, you were also in a residential neighborhood that also saw some damage.
Yeah, like we were saying, it was basically one street that had the worst of the damage, and that was a roof was ripped off, siding ripped off, a lot of the roof tilings that were on there also ripped off, and holes punched in the side of their houses. We also saw in the backyard, this is a neighborhood that backs up to the Indian River, so the water was kind of washing up over their seawalls that they had in their backyard, kind of destroying some of the piers that were back there as well. One man said that his jet ski, which was parked back there, washed down the river as well, but he was able to find it, so that's good for him on that. But yeah, there's a lot of damage in that one particular street of the neighborhood. Some other streets have some smaller damage, some tile damage and so forth. But yeah, that's the kind of the nature of the tornado. When it goes through one place, one street over might be perfectly fine. Another street has total devastation.
Thank you. We appreciate that. He's been out there since this morning, and in the early morning hours when it was still dark outside, seeing all that debris flapping inside that Supercuts and then over at the bank. It's crazy.
All right, and we are continuing to get new video and new interviews into the newsroom. Our producers out there working to turn this content so we can bring it to you as soon as possible. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, one more song. Let's do it. One more song. Let's do it.
Hey, I'm leaving this world famous band.
What? Right now? But this was our dream. What could be better than this?
I'm gonna sell insurance.
Nobody wants to sell insurance.
Until they do.
Be your own boss. Stack your own cash. Start a career that matters.
Start your real dream career at coloniallife.com.
If you end up with long COVID, someone will feel all alone. Your risk of getting long COVID goes up with every infection, which may lead to long-term health issues. Get an updated vaccine this season. Do it for you and your furry best friend.
Is different. What are you seeing in downtown Orlando?
Yeah, so these heavy, really big gusts of wind, if you can believe it, basically knocked down two traffic lights. And crews have been working. I mean, those were the poles that those traffic lights were on. They took some saws, took them down because they literally were bent over all the way down. So just over the past couple of hours, they've been really taking them down, blocking off this area. But that just kind of paints the picture of how strong these winds were. I mean, these are really strong, tall, powerful traffic lights and poles. And literally the wind knocked and bent them over. Now, significant flooding wasn't a huge issue here, but in other parts of Orange County, it was. Take a look. This couple is bracing the floodwaters and trying to get to their home. Hurricane Milton turned Riverdale and Buck Road into a lake with homes completely underwater.
The house that's over here on the right, I'm guarantee you without seeing it, they got water in it. And then that one over there on the left, I guarantee you they got water in it too. They typically always do.
Orange County Fire Rescue spent the morning walking through the waters, seeing if any residents needed to be rescued. Luckily, everyone evacuated ahead of time, but homeowner Danielle Thies says this is not the first time this flooding has happened.
Irma's when it started really getting bad. It was about 2 feet from being in the house. Then Ian really wiped everyone out on the street. I think there's only one house on here that made it.
This type of flooding can be dangerous. The water goes up all the way to people's chest and even up to the mailboxes. Officials say there can be snakes or even gators in the water, so they highly advise everyone to be cautious. Thies says she is just lucky her and her family are safe.
This year we were already at grandma's in a brick home, so they were safe. That was my main concern.
Now back out here, there still might be some traffic lights without power. So officials really suggest being careful, being cautious, making sure that you stop. 4 ways, of course. And another thing is a lot of these crews are going to be out here working around the clock for the next couple of days. So give them patience, really look out for them because they have a lot of work ahead of them. For now, I'm reporting live here in downtown Orlando. I'm Spencer Tracy, West 2 News.
All right, Spencer. Again, she's been reporting all over Orange County this morning to see that traffic light down in downtown Orlando. And this is not the first time it's happened because something similar happened in Ian a little bit closer to the courthouse further along on Orange Avenue.
Yeah, if we're going to look at a bright side to all of this is that we're watching these crews work and she's out there reporting and the weather is okay for all this work to get done.
Thankfully, and I know a lot of people are starting to get their power back on slowly. I know a couple of people that already have that on, which is great news. So it's so good to see, and our forecast for the rest of the day looks pretty good. Now, we obviously had a lot of wind with Milton. Here, also look at some of the peak wind gusts that have come out officially from the National Weather Service out in Melbourne. Kennedy Space Center, one of the highest peak wind gusts of 92 miles per hour. And that happened when it was a Category 1 hurricane. And the peak wind gust forecasts were 85 miles per hour. That's really impressive. Daytona Beach peak wind gusts of 87 miles per hour. Orlando peak wind gusts of 86 miles per hour. Same thing in New Smyrna Beach. And then Orlando Sanford International Airport, a peak wind gust of 84 miles per hour. Now, the farther west we went, the wind gusts weren't as significant, but they were still very high, mainly in the 70s. So this was a very impactful system. I'm happy to say most of our wind gusts are looking good along our coastline. We've seen recent gusts of around 35 to 40 miles per hour, especially in Brevard County, but I'm not expecting it to be extremely gusty for the rest of the day. So if you're wondering why it's still gusty, this is just because things are trying to go back to normal. When you have big pressure gradients or just a big pressure systems next to each other, that's how wind is created. That's why we see so much wind in a lot of these hurricanes and in these tropical systems. So it's pulling away. We're trying to get calmer conditions in there. Eventually that will happen. For the rest of the day ahead, we may see wind gusts of around 35 as high as 40 miles per hour. So nothing that you want to put out your Halloween decorations yet, but we'll still be dealing with some pretty gusty conditions. Nothing to hinder any of those processes or recovery efforts to help get the lights back on, your power back on. Overnight tonight, still a little bit breezy, and then tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon, winds not as strong, but still breezy as well. We also have a couple of rain showers at the moment, basically along I-95. It's a ribbon from Palm Coast down to Flagler Beach, Ormond Beach, and Daytona Beach, gradually working west of I-95. So if you're traveling along I-95, please take it easy. And then as we go towards New Smyrna, Oak Hill, all the way down to Brevard County, even as far as eastern Orange County, eastern Seminole County, we have a couple of showers at the moment. So these are not going to be significant showers. They're just going to be a little bit pesky at times, a little bit breezy as well. But overall, Eric, the heavy rain is done with.
And so now we've got clouds, we've got a breeze. It's actually turning into a fairly nice day, which so often happens after a hurricane strike, right? This is a look over at Lakefront Park in Osceola County. I've seen some folks kind of coming out, probably taking in a little bit of the breeze, but you notice it's a little bit, it's not like everything is leaning on the end like it was late last night through early this morning. Temperatures feel very, very comfortable. 73 outside in Melbourne, 72 outside in St. Cloud. It's 71 in Orlando, 71 degrees in Leesburg, and 70 degrees in the Villages. So looking at the wide shot, there goes Hurricane Milton. It will transition and become a extratropical system later today. On the backside, the same weather maker that basically threw the storm at Florida is going to help throw it away and drag in some drier air. So our forecast really and truly improves over the next 6 to 12 hours time. Here's Futurecast. 1, 2, 3 o'clock, we still have those showers. And the modeling shows the showers lingering through 3, 4, 5 from time to time. Nothing severe. That's done. That's in the rear view mirror. It'll stay breezy through about dinner time, but looking ahead to the weekend, overnight tonight, no problems. Just some of those coastal showers, and that's about all we've got. All right, let's take a look. Central Florida's most accurate 7-day forecast showing the nice weather. Really, tomorrow, beautiful. High of about 80 degrees. We'll climb into the mid-80s for our Saturday, Sunday. Morning low temperatures in the upper 60s, and we'll stay in the 60s for morning lows, but models are even hinting, and we'll take any little glimmer of that we can get, hinting at highs in the upper 70s by Wednesday. It may not be chilly, but hey, it's something, and it's not a hurricane. Back to you.
All right, Eric, we appreciate it. Our coverage of Milton continues after this break.
Stay with us.
Get a load of this glorious morning in nature. Can you feel the energy? The verve, that giddy thrill at waking up and being alive and kicking. Luckily for you humans, Nature's Way put that feeling in a bottle. Multivitamins inspired by nature. Nature's Way.
Vapes and weapons on campus have been a huge issue across Volusia County schools, but a new partnership between the district and the state attorney's office is now hoping to change that.
Flash 2's Pamela Combe got exclusive details of the initiative launching this upcoming school year.
Vapes, guns, and knives. These are all things found in Volusia County students' backpacks and pockets last school year.
They're
unfortunately growing, and we're seeing them all across our campuses.
But this upcoming school year, Volusia and Flagler counties are partnering with the state attorney's office to address vaping and gun violence. Their goal is to educate.
We want to bring in and really show our students and our parents what are those real life consequences of what you can face if you're caught with this.
They'll start by rolling out this initiative to all the high schools. They then hope to expand to all middle and elementary schools.
One of the programs they're hoping to add would require students to take a course if they're first-time vape offenders. They'll also start posting public service announcements with testimonials of Volusia students negatively impacted by vapes.
It's not just a, oh, well, I vaped in the bathroom, I got a suspension or a referral. No, if this continues, there is a real concern. So by being proactive and educating them on this piece, hopefully we can save them from getting in trouble in the future.
They also hope to host school assemblies, have webinars, town hall meetings, and focus groups so both students and parents know the dangers and consequences. They'll discuss all their options with the state attorney's office and the other 3 districts involved.
It's sharing that wealth of information that we may not know had existed, programs that maybe other districts are using and really seeing a positive growth with. We can share those materials.
The district only hopes this puts a dent in vape use and weapons on campus. In Volusia County, Pamela Combe, WESH 2 News.
The state attorney's office plans to hold a press conference next week with more details. Of course, we'll bring that to you on WESH 2 when it happens.
A Brevard County man cannot believe he's still alive after surviving a knife attack on a busy street.
Sure, there's a tool for every job, but when it comes to PDFs and e-signatures, Adobe Acrobat is the only tool you need for any PDF job. It's the all-in-one get-it-done solution for editing your PDFs, sharing them, even getting them signed. Lots of jobs, one tool. Acrobat's got it. Try it today.
A Brevard County man cannot believe he's still alive after surviving a knife attack on a busy street outside a popular place for nightlife.
That happened on King Street near the Cocoa Village. The victim told WESH 2 he survived being stabbed twice in the neck by a stranger.
He stabbed me in the neck, stabbed me in the lower back kidney area, a gash on the other side of my neck right there. I think this dude was out to kill somebody.
Out of fear for his safety, we're not showing you his face or telling you his name, but from the staples in his back, you can see how close he came to death.
I think that was his whole intention right there, to kill somebody.
The victim says he was looking at his phone along King Street, trying to figure out how to use Uber when he was attacked. He says a survival instinct saved him.
I just grabbed him, threw him down on the ground, held his arm down, and just basically pounded him into the concrete, pretty much what I did.
He says the attacker then ran off, bleeding. He called 911 and was rushed to Holmes Regional in Melbourne.
Mad world, man.
Cocoa police arrested this man, Jeremy Moore. They accuse him of attempted murder and aggravated battery with a deadly weapon.
I've never seen the guy before in my life.
The victim says he's lucky and has advice for anyone walking at night.
It's a blessing of God, yes, sir. It could have been a lot worse. Watch yourself, pay attention to who's around you, and just make sure that you're all sights on everything around you. That would be my advice, And I'm usually like that. If I wouldn't have been just so into my phone, maybe I could have avoided it.
Now, WESH 2 reached out to Cocoa Police for an on-camera interview. We wanted to ask if
Take control of your health by boosting your force field, the immune system. Aura tells you when your temperature is higher than normal. Live smarter, stronger, healthier with the Aura Ring.
This is probably similar to Hurricanes Irma and Ian in terms of the number of outages. I think we're up to, currently now it's about 3.4 million that are out. I think they've restored about 700,000 since the storm started. So just do the math. You're over 4 million have lost power since the start of this storm. Fortunately, Florida, we pre-staged 50,000 linemen throughout the state of Florida. And so those folks are going to work. And It's not as easy to do when you've just had Hurricane Helene. A lot of these linemen, there's still hundreds of thousands of people without power in North Carolina and Georgia, some of those states. Helene in Florida, we did 2.4 million restorations in record time. That's not the norm. And so finding the linemen, given what they're doing now, we brought them in from as far away as California. But those folks are there. There's assessments being done about what needs to be done. When you have down power lines, that's actually easy for them to do. They just put the pole back up, reconnect it. If their entire system needs a rebuild, that will take a little longer. We don't know that that's the case in many of these spots. I remember in Hurricane Ian, which was stronger than this one, hit Fort Myers Beach, and FPL substation on Fort Myers Beach right there at Ground Zero was fine. They could have had people hooked up to power days later. Just the people's homes couldn't accept it because of the storm surge. So all that is going on, and we're happy to have pre-staged those resources because I think it's really important that we'll be able to do. We're also assessing the need for things like points of distribution. We typically will set up these pods with water, food, tarps, things of that nature. I think we will be doing some pods. A lot of this is based on what the counties ask us for, but I also think you're probably going to see a lot of the stores and gas stations reopen very quickly. At least that's our hope. We're also looking at the damage that was done to the ports in Florida. East Coast, I don't think there was very much, if any. Port of Tampa seems like it's okay. Manatee, that remains to be seen. But bottom line is we got to keep bringing fuel into this state. I know there's a lot on the dock side still that can be brought out. We've got 1.5 million gallons of diesel on hand that we can use for the state and to help replenish. And I think we've got about 1.1 million gallons of regular gasoline just in our arsenal. And then we've also deputized the Florida Highway Patrol to escort the fuel tankers with sirens to be able to get to all the gas stations to get filled. I think you're probably going to be okay on the east coast of Florida. Some of the places in the Tampa Bay area, when there was evacuation, everyone was going to get gas, and some people were filling up additional tanks in addition to what was in their car with the gallon containers or whatever they have, which is fine, but just the demand went through the roof. And so these guys ran out. We had enough fuel in the state. It's just they didn't have the delivery schedule to be able to replenish it immediately. So you had some that went out. So we've been doing this. I think we've done probably about 130 escorts with Florida Highway Patrol bringing this in. We'll continue to do that. So my hope is that there's minimal interruption with fuel on the backside of the storm. We've had a lot of people have been working very hard. I think, as most of you know, we've been doing this now for 2.5 weeks from the time we declared the state of emergency before Hurricane Helene, and then in the aftermath of Helene. And then, we work on Helene for a week in terms of the response and the recovery. And then we got to do another state of emergency for Hurricane Milton. And it's just the way you go. So people have been working 24/7, particularly on the west coast of Florida. We got a lot of first responders that have been working really hard. Kevin and his team, all of our state agencies get mobilized when we have these types of events, and they've been working nonstop. So my hat's off to everybody that's worked hard. Unfortunately, we have the fatalities from this tornado here. We don't have confirmed reports of other fatalities throughout the rest of the state, but we may as the day goes on. My sense is that a lot of the people did leave who were in the evacuation zones. I know we had over 80,000 people staying in shelters. You had massive heavy traffic on the interstates over the last several days leading up to the storm, because I think people were deciding, to just get out of Dodge. We also can say that the storm did not produce the worst case scenario in terms of storm surge. If you remember, about 24 hours ago, maybe 36 hours ago, the fear was a Category 4, strong 4 going into Tampa Bay, producing about 15 feet of storm surge. That's an area with Pinellas County Peninsula and then the surrounding areas in Hillsborough County that is very low lying, very susceptible to storm surge. That did not end up happening. The storm did weaken before it hit land, and then it did bear further to the east and south of Tampa Bay. So I think a lot of what they had was the the winds suck water out of Tampa Bay. You did have storm surge in Sarasota, Venice, Charlotte Harbor, and all the way down the west coast of Florida, and some significant storm surge, but not to the worst case scenario of what we were looking at. I mean, for example, Helene, we had storm surge in Taylor County up in North Florida that was probably about 20 feet in places like Deacle Beach and Horseshoe Beach. And that is the real deal. I mean, we have examples in American history where you've actually had a lot more than that, 24, 25 feet, Mississippi, Texas, Camille, some of those. But to have 18 to 20, that's a big deal. So doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of damage. Doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot we're going to have to contend with. But just in terms of what we were prepped for, I think that we probably have an abundance of resources. My sense is we'll probably be able to release a lot of the search and rescue resources that we've had on hand very soon, and then just get back to getting everybody back online with power, making sure the gasoline's flowing and everything. So all in all, everyone's done a good job up to this point. We got a lot more work to do, and I'll let Kevin come in and say a few things.
Thank you, Governor. I think in this situation here, where we're at, the strength of what happened here is organically our state mutual aid system. The very first group that was on hand here was a Palm Beach County Fire Rescue Search and Rescue Team. That's not even officially a part of our state 8-team search and rescue team system. Maybe we want to change that in the future and put them on that. But that Type 3 team, which is self-funded 100% by Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, was the first ones in to this situation, followed up by Miami-Dade Task Force 1, and then Ohio and Virginia Task Force. And again, I think, that's just the strength of not just the state emergency response team, the state emergency response plan, but also outside states helping states. Some people were a little critical of the governor sending state assets up to North Carolina, but right here, when we needed them, we got all those guys back, but immediately Virginia, Ohio, California, and other states from around the country had their assets right here. So, this is one of those examples. The sheriff was telling us about this when we were walking up. He was very grateful for those assets being in here so quickly, but that's the strength of the state emergency response team, the state emergency response plan, and then the greater emergency management assistance compact that we pull from. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here. This is the first day of many, many to come, probably over the next couple of years. Again, it's going to take us a long time to get all the recovery done, but we're not going to let bureaucracy get in the way. We're going to get this done as quickly as we possibly can. So thank you, Governor, for your leadership.
Do you want to maybe just give an update on what we think we're going to get from FEMA for debris removal?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to start getting back in the debris removal business. And, we're going to supplement where we need to supplement, but we had a really good conversation with Administrator Criswell, who is here in Florida and is actually on her way somewhere in this general direction. But she is working with us on how we could ensure that debris gets picked up quickly. How do we, and the right word is not incentivize it, but if you're in the private sector, it would be, how do we incentivize haulers to get stuff picked up faster, bringing in people from around the country to get that done. We're also looking at potentially, again, a mutual aid effort where we may bring in some city and county assets that have the claw trucks and the loader trucks from around the state of Florida and maybe even outside the state of Florida to help us get that stuff picked up. So again, she's very, very helpful on getting those things done, making sure that we got everything that we need. We will be submitting, hopefully by this afternoon, now that we got post landfall and we got some data, we'll be submitting through the governor's signature a major disaster expedited request so that we could get those federal funds turned on and start looking for reimbursement. But again, we're not going to wait on the feds for reimbursement. We're going to do what we need to do the right thing, get people in Floridians back on their feet. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, so this whole debris, you had like in Pinellas, they didn't want to do the debris as fast because they weren't sure about the paperwork and about FEMA reimburse. And it's like, you got to get the debris off. And these storms, because of the way it's done, really incentivizes it to go a lot longer with the debris. And sometimes the debris in these major storms is around for a year. And how ridiculous is that? So what Kevin's doing, and I think the administration wants to work with us, is to let's align these incentives so we can get the job better. You'd think the private sector would do it so much better than government. At least that's what I would think. And yet on this debris after Helene, when we saw how much was there and we knew another storm was coming, we got all our Department of Transportation assets from Florida. We were bringing trucks in from all over the state that are doing their normal duties, and we surged them over to the barrier islands off the Gulf Coast of Florida. And we did like 3,000 truckloads of debris, reduced the debris by 50% in 72 hours. So, and we did round the clock. We had 24/7 shifts going, but that's a sense of urgency. So I just think that, that may be an extreme, like doing 24/7, but I mean, you should be able to get the debris done earlier than that. So I'm hoping that they can do this in a way that's going to make sense so that the local governments can bring their contractors in and clean up the debris. We'll see what the debris was left on this storm. I don't think we have a real good sense about how much compared to the other. I mean, I think the storm surge overall was not as high as the others, but I also think it probably hit the winds hit more of the Florida peninsula on this. So I think in terms of tree damage, I think you're going to see a lot of that. And then, of course, we had more tornadoes for Milton than we did for Helene. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But I really think, getting a better posture on how they do the debris reimbursements would make a lot of sense. And I think it would move this process along a lot further. And it's also just a morale thing. You get hit with a storm, seeing debris is just a constant reminder that you got hit. When things get picked up, things look nice, people feel a lot better about it. So we got to get that. We got to make sure they get that job done. Okay, do we have any questions?
Yeah, Governor, have you spoken with the White House, anyone there, about the response here?
Yes, I spoke with the president this morning, and Kevin was on the phone with me. We were on the administrator of FEMA was in the office with us in Tallahassee at the Emergency Operations Center, and he said he wants to be helpful. And so if we have requests, he said send them his way, and he wants to help us get the job done. So I appreciate being able to collaborate across the federal, state, and local governments and work together to put the people first. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think it's so, you do have these tornadoes, the warnings, how many actually touch down is probably a different one. But I would say what I've seen so far is that St. Lucie had the most tornado damage of anyone I've seen. Is that what your reports?
Yeah. And we know that we had over 120 tornado warnings statewide. It's probably going to be higher than that. All of those tornado confirmations come from your local weather forecasting office. So those individuals that come around and confirm all of those tornadoes. We have 4 meteorologists that said that we had probably in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 radar indicated tornadoes. All that means that they see a debris signature in the circulation. But again, the weather forecasting offices of the National Weather Service will actually verify those tornadoes.
Excuse me?
Sorry, was that in St. Lucie County alone, the 20 to 25?
No.
Statewide.
Statewide.
Yep.
Hey, Sheriff Pearson, could you please clarify? I know we've got 4 deaths in the Spanish Lakes area. Where was the 5th death in St. Lucie County?
In the same area. As our rescue team is still out there, this is a rescue mission. We're sifting through the debris. They just recently, right before this conference, located another victim, unfortunately. But again, we're going to continue through this. We're so grateful that the governor sent down, this was during the storm, he sent down the National Guard. So while we're all hunkering down, trying to stay safe, these men and women are driving through the storm to get here, and they work throughout the night, and their actions 100% saved lives, saved our lives.
Governor, I know before the storm there was a great concern about the debris from Helene. How much worse did this storm make the debris that was already accumulated?
I think that'll be assessed today. I can tell you, whatever happened, had we not done what we did with that 72-hour project to take every truck in Florida and help these counties and these cities, some of these contractors were doing the debris and then they left and went to North Carolina because they could make more money there. And then others were working like bankers' hours. And I'm just thinking to myself, how the hell is that something that's acceptable? And so we came in and we said, not only are we going to send all these assets, it's going to be 24/7. So the first night we go there, and the county, I think it was Pinellas, they didn't have the landfill open 24/7. So our guys cut the locks, and we started doing. And you had all these, not just the state trucks. You had private citizens with their Ford F-250 pickup trucks that were loading debris, massive amounts in. So he said, we got to keep it going. Then the next night, there were 2 entrances, and they closed one of the entrances, and there were 300 cars in line. So we somehow rigged that and opened that up. So this is just like, where's the sense of urgency? So it may be that this debris ended up not causing much more damage. But if it did cause more damage, I could tell you, had we not come in and did what we did, you would have had a lot more. And the thing is like, I mean, I tell Kevin, I'm like, look, we want to be helpful, and we will be helpful. But you know, the state's job is not to pick up the debris. Like, that's the local community's responsibility. And so this was an extraordinary circumstance where we came in and did it. And I think part of the reason, and I think there was enough debris there that I don't think you could have gotten it all in 2 weeks, realistically. But I mean, there clearly was not a sense of urgency after the first storm hit. And yes, we knew there may be another one. Then they said, well, just a rainstorm, maybe not, this and that. But then by last weekend, by like last Friday, we were looking at it. Like, you know what, this is real. We got to be serious about it. And then we did the executive order on Saturday. So, you know, but I definitely think we help things by doing that. And as of now, I'm not sure about structural damage on any of the roads there. I'm going to go over to Siesta Key after this in Sarasota. That was kind of ground zero of where the surge came in. You know, we just repaired one of the roads from Longbow Key up to Anna Maria. Do you know how that's fared? Have we gotten any reports?
I have not. Sure.
So we did emergency repairs on that, got it back open. We'll see. We may have to do some more repairs on that. I think that there may have been some small bridges throughout the state that have some damage. The big bridges we have in the Tampa Bay area, Gandy, Howard Franklin. I know Sunshine Skyway is going to be open if it's not already. The other 2 are open. Courtney Campbell will be open as soon as they move the debris and finish the debris removal. So all being told, you're going to have all those major bridges back open if they're not already.
So, Governor, do you have any ballpark of how many ongoing rescues there are around the state?
No, because I think it's, you know, we do our rest. So we've got Florida National Guard, Florida Fish and Wildlife, Florida State Guard, Florida Highway Patrol, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and they will do their own rescues by themselves. But then we also have the local outfits. So the Sheriff's Department in Sarasota and Bradenton, police departments, fire departments. Sometimes we do joint operations, but a lot of the times if someone calls 911, they're going. My sense would be, and Kevin can chime in on this, we've probably had less demand for rescues on Milton than we did on Helene. Do you agree?
Yes, sir. I agree. We do have a number of federal and state assets out there doing search and rescue. In addition to everything the governor said, the Florida Urban Search and Rescue teams that are associated with fire departments across the state of Florida. All of those are in the fight. They're all out there actively assessing and looking for people right now. They will do a door-to-door, especially in the landfall area, the landfall path. We've got them stretched from here in St. Lucie all the way over to where landfall happened and all the way up to the east coast or northeast coast of Florida. Once we finish all that, so I would literally, to your question, say there's hundreds of rescues ongoing. But to the governor's point, as we were driving in today, I see Sheriff Chronister doing active rescues in Hillsborough County. I see active rescues going on in Pinellas County and so on. So they're going on organically at the local level, at the state level, and then the federal teams that are here supplementing our state ongoing response are also here.
But I would say, I think for Helene, I think the first 24 to 36 hours, I think there were statewide, local, state combined, there were probably thousands of rescues. My sense would be we're probably in the hundreds of rescues statewide so far. But you know, I think you're going to see, because we had more inland flooding, you're going to see some floods happen in the ensuing days, and you may have to have some people go in and do some rescues there. So I think you may see it be ongoing.
Can we have an update from the federal level?
As Governor spoke about, FEMA Administrator Creswell is headed here on the ground. And the only thing I would add to it, Governor's done a fantastic job just being an air traffic control tower for all of this, making sure the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. From the governor's office to the sheriff's department across the state, state representatives, state senators, Florida Highway Patrol, National Guard, FDLE, Florida Power and Light, everybody made sure they could do every ounce of prevention, and they're working with FEMA. That's the update from the federal side. They're all working with FEMA.
And just so I think the notice for this said that Administrator FEMA was going to be here. That was the intention, but I think her plane got diverted over to Sarasota. So I think she's going to be at our Sarasota briefing when we do that later today. Yes, sir.
What damage have you assessed in western St. Lucie County over by unincorporated farmland?
Yeah.
So the unincorporated farmland is agricultural. We haven't had any really reports of structural damages because it's just that agricultural. Right now, we're focusing on rescue missions, and that area is to that half square mile radius there in northern Fort Pierce that we're doing the active rescues in. Everybody else is accounted for, although there's damage throughout the county. The agricultural area, again, is just that agricultural area. So we'll get to that. We're just prioritizing things right now. It's still an active rescue mission.
Sheriff, to clarify, were the 5 deaths here in St. Lucie all from the tornado?
Yes, we're going to attribute those deaths to that specific area that we're doing active rescues in. Again, we're focusing on trying to rescue as many people as we can. With the National Guard, with the SARS teams in here, and the amazing men and women of the Sheriff's Office and Fire Rescue, we were able to get 25 people out of there and get them in a safe area. But again, the work's not over. They worked through this storm. They worked before the storm, during the storm, and they're going to continue to work until we make sure that anybody there that needs to be rescued will be rescued.
Obviously, with every hurricane, tornadoes are a concern, but it seems like the story of Hurricane Milton really is all of the tornadoes. Have you ever seen something of this magnitude, just as far as the number of tornadoes and the amount of damage they did?
Well, I mean, every hurricane we have a lot of tornadoes spun off. I think we may have had more tornado warnings on this one than the typical hurricane, I would think. But to see what happened here, sadly, that is not something that's uncommon. These tornadoes, I mean, when Mother Nature, I mean, this is just churning. Things churn off these weather systems, and it's just devastating. And so this is unfortunately something that is kind of normal with the big storm. We probably had more warnings than we would with normal storms, but and especially the ones that come across the peninsula like this, you could get it. I mean, you've got east coast of Florida, Palm Beach, St. Lucie, a bunch of stuff happened over here, and you were probably hundreds of miles away from the eye of the storm at the time those tornadoes were spun off. But that is just that is to be expected to a certain extent. Tornadoes? I think you could go back and find tornadoes for all of human history for sure. And especially, Florida, how does this storm rate in kind of the history of storms? I think it hit with a barometric pressure of, what was it, about 950 millibars when it hit? Which I think if you go back to 1851, there's probably been 27 hurricanes that have had lower so the lower the barometric pressure, the stronger it is. I think there have been about 27 hurricanes that have had lower barometric pressure on landfall than Milton did. And of those, 17 occurred, I think, prior to 1960. And the most powerful hurricane on record since the 1850s in the state of Florida occurred in the 1930s, the Labor Day hurricane. Barometric pressure on that was 892 millibars. It totally wiped out the Keys. We've never seen anything like it. And that remains head and shoulders above any powerful hurricane that we've ever had in the state of Florida. The most deadly hurricane we've ever had was in 1928. The Okeechobee hurricane killed over 4,000 people. Fortunately, we aren't going to have anything close to that on this hurricane. But even ones like Ian, where you had, wasn't even close to that. So I just think people should put this in perspective. They try to take different things that happen with tropical weather and act like it's something. There's nothing new under the sun. This is something that the state has dealt with for its entire history, and it's something that we'll continue to deal with. I think what's changed is we've got 23 million people. A storm that hits is likely to hit more people and property than it would have 100 years ago. And so the potential for that damage has grown. But what's also changed is our ability to do the prevention, to pre-stage the assets. I mean, we never did the pre-staging of power assets until I became governor. Now people expect that, but that wasn't what was done in the past. That's why people would be out with power for 3 weeks when we'd have hurricanes. We thought that that's not good. Now we have to pay to get these guys to come in, but my view is the quicker you get everyone hooked up, the better off the economy is going to be anyway. So why don't we just do that? Having the different search and rescue, having a state guard, all these different things are just bringing different tools to the fight. And it allows us to respond more effectively. So if we had the tools that we had in 1928 to fight an Ian or to fight some of these, you would have had higher death tolls. There's no question about that.
Speaking of history, sir, how many storms formed as rapidly as they have between Helena and Milton?
Oh, I mean, I think most people remember 2004, right? Where we had seemed like you had them every other week in 2004. Then there's also time period, we had from 2006 to 16, we had no hurricanes at all in Florida. There's also been times where we had a lot. The 1940s, we were getting hit a lot. Now more recently, we've had a spate of more. So that's just kind of the nature of it. But this really does. It has a lot of similarities to 2004 in terms of the season.
Yeah, Governor, a lot of folks, particularly quite a few who trust you and look to you for information, are possibly engaging in some misinformation about some entity controlling the weather. Can you take this opportunity to denounce that misinformation and set the record straight for folks who believe someone is controlling the weather?
Look, if I could control the weather, I would do 78 and sunny year round. Now we get that a lot in Florida, coming up in the months, but there would be no reason to ever do. So look. And this is on both sides. You kind of have some people think government can do this, and then others think it's all because of fossil fuels. The reality is what we see. There's precedent for all this in history. Like it is hurricane season. You are going to have tropical weather. We hope that a lot of the tropical weather are fish storms out in the Atlantic that never impact us. The reality is anything that gets in the Gulf of Mexico, it's got to hit something. Maybe it hits Mexico, maybe it hits Louisiana, but Florida is one, especially if it's moved when they bend east. We're the ones that are going to do. So like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. These are natural occurrences. We will deal with tropical weather for as long as we're Floridians.
What about the role of carbon emissions in propagating said storms?
Well, I've already addressed the historical record of the storms in Florida. Like I said, we've our biggest storm, our strongest storm by far remains the Labor Day from the 1930s. All right, we're going to go to Sarasota after this. We're going to go inspect the damage there, see what the needs are. I appreciate what the sheriff and his team are doing to help the citizens here. We are very, very saddened to see a tornado inflict such serious damage, including loss of life. These are things that are very, very tough to withstand. You don't get a lot of warning on them, and they're very, very devastating. And tragically, to lose 5 really, really is tough for this community. So our hearts go out to everybody who's been affected by this, and we're happy to have been supportive of the rescue efforts, and we'll continue to be supportive going forward. Thanks.
To the left, this way. Sharon.
All right, you've been listening to the governor there speaking one more time as we continue to assess the damage that was left behind by Milton. He spent some time there also comparing this particular storm with the others. And of course, our meteorologists have been doing the same. We'll check in with them in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and he talked about the impact seeming so large because of all of the people over the last 100 years who've moved to the state. Of course, we're going to follow the latest on the recovery efforts after Hurricane Milton moved through. We do want to give you a little bit of a note here about our theme parks. We are just getting some word from Universal Orlando and SeaWorld Orlando about openings. SeaWorld's going to be open tomorrow. Now, they are canceling Spooktacular and Howl-O-Scream for Friday. So Universal Orlando is also planning to be back open on Friday. And we believe it's going to be spooky season there. Halloween Horror Nights will go on as planned after being canceled the last 2 nights.
Our coverage of Milton continues right now.
You're watching continuing coverage of Milton from WESH 2.
All right, here at 1 o'clock, Milton is off our shores, and we are now getting a better picture of the type of damage this hurricane left behind. Look at the power behind this tornado. Caught on camera, this was in Fort Pierce. Wow, this was in St. Lucie County, and the wind in this particular tornado just ripping roofs off homes.
Yeah, and of course, it's going to be something that the experts have to go out and we call it a possible tornado, and the reason is it's got to get confirmed there. But we've seen Milton as it slammed into our Gulf Coast with those intense winds and just a powerful storm with so much damage, especially for the St. Petersburg area.
Right, and I think in terms of like tornadoes, I'd be curious if they're even able to survey, just because then you got into tropical storm and hurricane conditions. So it'll be interesting to see what the National Weather Service does. Either way, though, it's an impactful storm system, and I think perhaps most importantly, it's on its way away from us.
Yes, we're seeing conditions get better by the moment here in Central Florida. But I'm curious also, years down the line, how are experts going to refer to Milton? I know we had record-setting intensification before it got to our shoreline, but also after it came through, we nearly broke records in terms of how many tornado warnings we had. So a lot of impacts and a lot of records on the cusp of being broken in regards to Milton.
It was more than 120 tornado warnings and 9 confirmed. I mean, those are just... those are numbers that are hard to fathom.
Well, and they weren't small either. I think that's the biggest thing. Typical tornadoes during tropical season, very, very weak. They weren't. And thankfully, that's all in the rear view mirror. At this hour, take a live look. Our first warning Doppler radar showing a few gusty showers. The winds continue to calm down, but here into Flagler County, heavy stuff from Flagler Beach down to about, say Oak Hill, Holly Hill, Ormond Beach, eventually down through Daytona Beach. Here's New Smyrna Beach. It's raining, it's pouring, but it's also almost done and over with. Oak Hill, Edgewater, some heavy stuff working your direction. Scottsmore continuing down 95 into Brevard County. And more showers over the Kennedy Space Center, working down through Port St. John and Cocoa Beach. Satellite Beach, a little bit of rain moving your direction. All of this falling along the St. Johns River Basin. Now, the typical kink in the river, remember this one flows northbound. One of the few rivers that does so is Astor, sitting at major flood stage, DeLand, Sanford, Lake Harney. More than likely, all the water kind of around in the watershed flows down and then has to come up. So it'll be interesting to see just how high Astor ends up going. But all of our rivers are once again into flood stage. Here's the infrared satellite. We've got a bad frame on the infrared, but you can see Milton pulling away. Still a Category 1 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 80, but it is expected to go extra tropical over the next few hours. And by about 8 o'clock tonight, it'll still be a nasty storm, but it will be a non-tropical nasty storm pulling away. Then we're done and we're over with. All right, so that said, what's up next in terms of the tropical activity? Let's get over to meteorologist Marquise Mita.
Well, Milton definitely did see a lot of power outages here widespread across the state of Florida. The power outages were staggering. I believe we're still about 29% of our community, widespread throughout the state, is still without power, and we are definitely trying to get those numbers up. But the recent wind gusts are still up there, right? Especially along our coastlines where we see those gusty conditions possibly surging at speeds right around 35 miles per hour. Still trying to get rid of those tropical storm warnings across our coastal communities, in which we do see those winds continuing to elevate. But it was the power outages that definitely made their imprint known here across Central Florida. I believe Polk County, you guys were the first few people to see your lights go off with the first few tornado warnings. 190,000 customers still without power across Polk County. We saw those numbers actually go down 10,000 over the last hour, but also communities like Volusia County. Those numbers are going up as we do have more people surveying the damage left behind. 220,000 customers without power across Volusia County currently. And we know that we have professionals coming in to work on getting the lights back on across those communities. But we mentioned, how are experts going to refer to Milton? What type of hurricane was it? We actually had some strong wind gusts possibly the second strongest that we've seen with any hurricane event for the last few decades. Take a look at the Kennedy Space Center, 92-mile-per-hour gusts. These are confirmed. Daytona Beach, 87-mile-per-hour peak gusts. Orlando, you're just behind that with 86-mile-per-hour gusts. So strong, at least Category 1 force winds felt here in Central Florida, but it was a Category 3 as it made landfall across Sarasota. And you see towards the northern half of Milton, that's where all the rain did continuously fall across very heavily populated areas through Tampa, Winter Haven, Kissimmee, and Orlando, pretty much just parallel with the I-4 corridor. That's where we had our strongest rain profile, and we're still dealing with a couple off and on again showers throughout the morning and early afternoon. But take a look at this. Ormond Beach, 22 plus inches of rain. Below that, Claremont and Hollywood Studios, both above a foot. Oviedo, 13.10 inches, and we still have a little bit more rain that we're trying to squeeze out of our system. We'll take a look when the rain showers will tally and track off how the rain showers tally before they track offshore, though, coming up in the next 15 minutes.
All right. Thanks, Marquise. Okay, we want to turn our attention right now back to the coverage of this storm as we look at an area that got impacted greatly. We saw this storm slam our Gulf Coast, and then the winds led to some big damage in the Tampa-St. Pete area.
Now, West 2's Megan Mackey is joining us live now near Tropicana Field. And this is huge. This is, of course, an iconic structure there, Megan, where the Tampa Bay Rays play. And we were seeing images all night of part of the roof being torn off.
Yeah, and this is really the image that people are going to remember of Hurricane Milton, you guys. I've been here for the last couple of hours, and really just people keep stopping, person after person, getting out of their car and taking pictures of the roof because it looks like it is ripped to shreds. Take a look at some of this video that we have. This is from overnight as well as this morning. That roof, you can just see it is torn apart. Fortunately, we know there were no injuries, but this area was originally being used as a staging area for thousands of linemen. But we know that they were fortunately relocated before that roof was damaged. Now, the dome was supposed to be able to withstand wind speeds of up to about 110 miles per hour. But people I spoke to who live near this area say it sounded like a bomb went off.
10:30, we heard like a loud, I don't know, screeching. It sounded like just like metal being thrown like towards our building kind of. So that's where we were like, okay, let's go see what's going on there. And our apartment faces right towards the Tropicana. So we just opened up our windows and looked out and just saw like the Tropicana roof was just floating in the air.
Floating in the air, ripping apart.
Obviously, we can't get inside right now, so we're still working to learn the damage that was done inside. But again, fortunately, nobody was injured. And typically, the Tampa Bay Rays would be still using this field at this time of year in October. But this year, they didn't make the playoffs. So that is at least some good news right there. They don't need to rush to fix the stadium. But of course, a lot of work is going to have to be done to get that roof back on top. Reporting live in St. Petersburg, Megan Mackey, West 2 News.
Well, I'm sure part of them wanted to face that problem.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to make the playoffs, but yeah, that is a bit of a silver lining. Megan, question for you. When we heard from you this morning, you were in the Tampa area, you were struggling to find gas. It looks like you made it to St. Pete here. So how is that situation? What are you seeing?
You know, not great, you guys. We actually never found gas. It took us a while to get here because we actually have a sister station here and we borrowed one of their vehicles. So we're currently not even driving the original car that we were in. And the car that we do have has about 87 miles worth of gas, which is enough to get us back to Orlando. So I guess that's the important part. Hopefully, as we head back into Orlando, we're able to find some gas. But yeah, we drove by a Wawa. Not a single gas station on the way down here has had gas. And that is the same thing we're seeing here in St. Petersburg. So hopefully they get some gas shipments here in Tampa, but we are hoping, James Roberts and I, my photographer, that on the way back to Orlando, we can at least fill up before we get back to Wesh.
Yeah, guys. All right.
Oh my
we're thinking of you. And then there's still this whole thing, our viewers sometimes don't see all of what goes on behind the scenes. We got to get their vehicle back to them and the Wesh vehicle back here. So there's this vehicle swapperoo and all that'll take place. Megan, thank you for your hard work and kind of letting us in on everything that you're working on there.
And it begs the question, how are our first responders there? You know, hopefully they're stocked up on gas as they make all of the rescues that need to be done in that area.
I will say, as a reporter, and it's a long time ago, and even in another state, but working with some of the first responders, they did have fuel stations. So they had their own places that they could take. The troopers or the police or fire rescue could go to these fueling stations that were only for them. And it was dedicated for times of emergency so that they could make sure they can do their jobs. Yeah.
A lot of things
Mhm.
need to fall into place. You know, a lot of organizations also go to the hardest hit areas to try and help out. So they're going to have to navigate that. But now that the sun is up, you yourself may want to go outside and check out some of the impacts.
Yeah. People want to go see the damage, and we found it at homes and businesses. The storm has moved well off our East Coast, and we're starting now to have some nice weather move in. West 2's Bob Hazen has been in Brevard County and shows us what's there.
This is where that apparent tornado started coming through right here over this Supercuts building, where you can see the windows were blown out and the roof was destroyed. Everything inside also looks like it was ruined. This is right across the street from where a Wells Fargo bank had its roof ripped off as well. Severe damage to that building. And then just a couple of blocks up from that, a neighborhood where some of the most severe damage that we've seen happen. We saw roof ripped off. We saw fences knocked over, lots of trees down, shingles and roof tiles pulled off as well, even holes punched into walls. A van had its window blown out, just tons and tons of damage in that neighborhood. And that neighborhood is actually where the mayor of Cocoa Beach lives. And we talked to him about the damage that happened in his neighborhood.
As far as all the reports that I'm hearing, I think this is the worst street. We had a pretty big one just come all the way from the beach side. I think it was a water spout that came through and then just diagonal right through our neighborhood.
There were also a lot of places that did see some flooding overnight. We also had some boats that got loose and crashed up on the rocks along the causeway. But the good news is we are told that no one was killed here in Brevard County during the storm. Reporting in Brevard County, Bob Hazen, West 2 News.
So much cleanup is still ahead, especially for residents in our coastal communities. We'll continue our coverage as we are tracking the impact of Hurricane Milton right after this break.